I had lots of fun at Finnegans Wake, and you can too. Welcome to Creatively Torn, a channel where I mostly talk about books, but sometimes don't. Today I'm going to try and convince you to read one of the most infamously absurd books on the planet. And that being Finnegans Wake by James Joyce. So back in March, I decided to read Finnegans Wake. After having been considering it for a couple months. I'd never read anything by James Joyce before, but something about this just kept calling my name, so I decided to just go for it. And I did. I started, and I read it in about 3 or 4 weeks. And it was pretty fun. It was challenging, but it was fun. Did I understand everything? Certainly not. Did I understand most things? Certainly not. Did I understand some things? I guess, yeah. But that's not the point of the book, really. It's really a more experimental experience, I would say. So anyways, all that to say, in this video I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should give Finnegans Wake a chance. Then also I will be giving you a couple tips on how to read Finnegans Wake. But first, if you are unaware of this book, I'll give you a brief synopsis of the plot. Just kidding, I don't know what the plot is. So I will be giving you some background information instead. So James Joyce was an Irish poet, novelist, and a critic. He is widely regarded as one of the most influential writers in the 20th century. He employed a plethora of inventive and unique writing styles, such as stream of consciousness and witty wordplay. His most ambitious and abstract work was his final novel, Finnegans Wake. This book took him 16 years to write and was immediately met with harsh criticism, even from those in the literary community, for being too abstract and nonsensical. So what makes this novel so abstract is the incredible level of detail put into constructing it. Finnegans Wake blends words from many languages, utilizes portmanteau words, which are just parts of different words combined together. Think of brunch, or liger, or Brangelina. Also has layered jokes and puns and references all throughout the text. There are also 10 thunder words, which are these absurdly long words that appear throughout the story. They appear to be nonsense, but when you break them down, they're actually just comprised of words or parts of words from several different languages. So additionally, the book contains an obvious Irish slant, further complicating things for those with no experience in the culture. And so basically it's a complex puzzle of words and noises and sounds and phrases that form some kind of a loose narrative. In fact, the narrative or the plot is not really even clear to most readers, though the story can be somewhat pieced together either on your own or by consensus from people who have read it. But that is enough background on the book itself. So I'm going to go dive into now 5 reasons why you should read Finnegans Wake. So like I mentioned before, it is an expertly crafted story through an amalgamation of languages, words and puns, references. The pure level of detail and commitment Joyce had while writing this book is something to behold in itself, and it is a never-ending learning process. So you could read this one a dozen times and still find new things each time that you missed the first time. So read this to study or admire Joyce's mastery of language. The second reason is because it's actually enjoyable. It's like art, it's music, it's poetic. Even if you don't want to take a deep dive into every language of mankind and to try to understand everything beyond the surface, you can still enjoy it just for the rhyme and the rhythm of the music of the words. It is very much like poetry. Sure, some poems you can break down and analyze, but many of them are just meant to evoke a feeling or an idea in your mind just by the words and the placement of the words. But that very much applies to Finnegans Wake as well. So yes, it is a very long poem, obviously, but admittedly, the beauty of it does remain. Listening to the audio, I think, really helps in this aspect to appreciate the text for the rhythm that really flows through it. Reason number 3 is because it's funny. This is legitimately one of the funniest books I've ever read. The puns and the wordplay is just pure insanity. When you read something that reminds you of another word or another phrase vaguely, it's quite a funny moment, and believe me, there's going to be quite a few of those. So if you just look for all the different ways he says Finnegans Wake in the book, and you'll just laugh your ass off. And obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but there are some dirty jokes in here as well, so look out for that. Another reason is because it is a challenge, and sometimes reading can and should be fun and breezy. Sometimes you need to sharpen your mind and really pay attention to what you're reading, though, and you can really do either of those here. You can simply enjoy it for its wit and its wordplay, or you can try to understand it. And this will definitely be a challenge for you, be a battle of endurance and a test of your research skills. There's lots of things you can research in this book, and the beautiful thing about that aspect is that you can really go as deep as you want to in discovering the secrets of this book, and there'll still be more things to discover. Make no mistake, this book will take effort either way, and you will struggle with it. But if you can persevere to the end, it can be a rewarding feeling, and sometimes a well-deserved victory in your hollow, meaningless life. Never mind, cut that. And the final reason why you should read Finnegans Wake, this one's kind of a cop-out, but don't worry about it. The final reason you should read it is because you just never know if you will like a book until you read it yourself. That applies to every other book, and it also applies to Finnegans Wake. You may hear about it, you may scorn about it, but you never know if something in the text will unlock a memory or a feeling within you. So there's 5 reasons why you should read Finnegans Wake. Maybe just 4, who knows. Anyways, let's go into some tips on how to read it. So if you do decide to read Finnegans Wake, here are some tips on how to get through it. I recommend reading it slowly. Don't rush it because you will lose the juice and the motivation very quickly. It is a very long and dense book, so you gotta be patient with it. Take your time, don't agonize over every sentence and every word, because some things you'll just not understand, no matter how many times you read them. I also recommend giving this a try with a buddy or a group. Trust me, the laughs alone will be worth it. The inside jokes you will have with each other will last you for a lifetime. And sometimes other people might pick up on a reference or pun that you weren't aware of, so you can incrementally get a little more out of the book together than you would just by yourself. I would also recommend giving this a chance on audio. I'm not usually an audiobook person, but I think reading this immersively could really help. Following along with the book and reading the book and listening on audio is very good. I think it helped with some of the pronunciations and some of the more difficult words. And also in some of the audiobooks, there is music, so that could help with some of the more poetic aspects of the book. If you don't want to do audio, you can always just read out loud yourself, which is a good way to do it as well. And then this next one really has 2 schools of thought. You can build up to Finnegans Wake by starting with other James Joyce books, like Dubliners, or Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, or Ulysses. Easing into his style is probably the way to go. However, it's not what I did. I just jumped straight in, fully knowing it would be a challenge and I wouldn't understand everything. Sometimes you just gotta do that. It's certainly an option. I think it's one that is doable. I think reading his other work could help warm you up to the style and maybe help you learn some references that you wouldn't have got otherwise. But it's not like you're gonna understand it only if you read Ulysses beforehand. That's not gonna work that way. So either way you go with it for this one, I think it really leads up to my last and probably my most recommended tip of all. Yes, Sega. I'm getting there. My final tip is to read it more than once. Even if you take all these steps and finish the book, you'll probably still only understand a mere fraction of it. So read it again. Not immediately, that would be insane. But come back to it in a year or 2, read parts of it, read it out of order, go back and read some other James Joyce books in the meantime, read some books on Finnegans Wake, because there are quite a few of them. Listen to talks or podcasts or videos. look up notes on it, then read it again, and you'll probably have quite a different experience after that. So I'm fresh off of my first read of the book a few months ago, and I plan to look into some of these other references and books in the meantime and come back to this in a couple of years and see how my experience changes in that time. So this is a very notoriously difficult book, and one that is pretty famous for being almost unreadable, but I do implore you to give it a chance. Like I said, you never know if you're going to like it or not until you actually try it, and even though it may be difficult, I think sometimes it's worth it to push through that, and you can gain more experience and more skills by doing things like that, so I do recommend giving it a chance. But that really takes me to the end here. So I hope you got something out of this video, whether or not you ever do decide to pick up Finnegans Wake. I sincerely hope you do. At least give it a chance. But we all have different tastes and things that we want from books, so if you're not into it, that's quite okay. But anyways, that's all I have for you. If you did manage to finish this video, I thank you. Feel free to connect with me on Goodreads or Instagram, or just subscribe to my channel here on the YouTube, and I will catch you later in the meantime. And don't forget to